The fourth tip is to use stories to get into your DMs. Y'all, let me tell you here, it goes down in the DMs. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, the best place to go for all things entrepreneurship, business, marketing, and digital nomad life. So today we are talking about everyone's favorite, Instagram stories. So if you're not already using Instagram stories for your business, listen up. This is going to be such a good episode. We're going to be talking about 10 different ways that you can utilize Instagram stories in order to grow your business and ultimately make more sales. Instagram stories are honestly my favorite way to market my business. And now in my business, we have like Instagram, a Facebook group, podcast, YouTube, like all of the things. But Instagram stories are super unique, unlike any other type of content that you get to create. And they are so powerful. And we're going to dive into why in this episode. Okay, so talking all things Instagram stories today, before we go into the 10 different ways that you can utilize them to grow your business, I want to talk about why Instagram stories are such a unique platform and way to utilize Instagram in order to connect with your audience. So when we boil it down to the basics, in order to get our audience and these people sitting in front of us or cold leads to get to the point of actually purchasing from us, we have to establish the know, like, and trust factor. Now, there's a lot of different ways that we can establish know, like, and trust within our audience, and we always want to be very conscious of this as we are creating content so that the content is intentionally letting people get to know us, letting them into who we are, whether you're a personal brand or a business brand, bringing them along with you so that they actually like you, they want to follow you, especially running a business on social media. And then of course, getting to the point where they actually trust you. They see you as an authority and they trust that you're going to be the one to solve their problems. And then bam, that's when they purchase, right? So where does Instagram stories fit into this? Well, the biggest thing about Instagram stories is the fact that they're video and that they have natural urgency. So video is the most powerful medium for you to be able to convey as much energy as possible to your audience, because we have visuals, we have sound, you can get a vibe for someone, like their energy, their tone. So you can really feel a lot from someone when they are on video. Now, the second reason Instagram stories are so powerful, other than being video, is because of the urgency piece. So the way that Instagram has set this up is that stories disappear within 24 hours. So this is actually a really cool feature of this, because a lot of other content, it lasts forever. So there's no urgency piece. So when stories disappear every 24 hours, if you're posting almost every single day and the content can't be found anywhere else, this is really going to drive your audience to continue checking in with you, almost like, you know, getting addicted to consuming what you have to do, seeing what you're up to every single day. And so this is a really positive thing, because it is by far the most urgent type of content that we can create as business owners to truly keep people coming back literally every single day. So as long as you use video, the video aspect of it strategically, and as long as you use the urgency piece of it strategically, both for business purposes and for those personal life kind of like behind the scenes aspects, this is really going to be what makes Instagram stories such a powerful tool within your business. And the last little piece from all of this before we dive in is that because there's that urgency piece and they do disappear, we are able to very easily and very naturally utilize the fact that people need to hear things more than once. In marketing, we need to be repetitive, right? In sales, we need to be repetitive. Everyone is kind of going at their own pace through that customer journey, getting ready for that point of purchase. And we know that people need to hear things or see things anywhere from 8 to 21 times, especially now with social media, before they're able to, you know, be aware of it or remember whatever it was that you're saying. And so stories, because they're naturally very repetitive, right? Because they keep disappearing, it's a really great way for you to build that brand awareness and build in very repeated marketing within your entire marketing and content plan. So with that being said, let's dive into 10 different ways that you can use Instagram stories to grow your business and increase sales. Okay, so tip number 1 is to post consistently. This is really crucial, especially with stories being so, quickly disappearing, is that we want to be visible. We want to be available for someone to find us when they find us, right? When a new lead comes in and they find you from a hashtag or from being tagged from someone else, we want someone to be able to see and consume our stories. And if we're not posting almost every single day on those, then, they have nothing to see from that. So of course there's other content that they can dive into, but but we're specifically talking about how powerful stories are with the urgency in the video pieces. So as you can see right here, ever since I started my coaching business in June of 2019, I have posted almost every single day on my stories. Now, take note that that does not mean every single day I was like sitting here on my stories doing an extensively long mini training, which I'll explain in just a minute. So sometimes it's as simple as, what were you doing that weekend? Sometimes it's just 1 or 2 slides that you're posting, maybe of the cup of coffee or something else that you had that day. But there's a lot of different types of content that we can share on our stories so that it doesn't have to become burdensome. Another thing that you can do to help with posting consistently is you can batch record. So whether they're mini trainings, whether they're just having like a stockpile of behind the scenes footage and different things like that, you can organize all of this footage in your Google Drive. And if you do have a team and you're not just a one woman or one man show, you can also have your team members be the ones to upload and post different aspects and different types of content onto your stories every single day. This can also be things such as when you have a new blog post, making sure that you've got a cute little Canva graphic that goes up every single, let's say, Tuesday when your blog post goes live. Or for example, for us, every time that our YouTube video goes live, we make sure to post about it on our stories. So the more that you get involved as well with other pieces of content, you can also use your stories kind of like an announcement board, because again, they disappear. So they're always top of mind and relevant information. The second tip that we have is to utilize stories using bite-sized pieces of value and information. So if we're business owners, which we all are who are watching this, you need to establish that trust factor, right? Remember, know, like, and trust. And we need to establish our authority. And so we want to use video and the way that we're able to speak, as well as use visuals to relay some really valuable and educational information. So my favorite way to do this is with mini trainings. Now, mini trainings are essentially just a value-packed anywhere from like 1 to typically 3-minute training that you do on your stories. Sometimes they can be very formulaic, such as, hey, here are 3 tips for you to utilize your Instagram stories, or here are 5 different ways that you can repurpose content. So those might be examples of little ideas that I would do for a mini training. Now, throughout that, I'm going to engage my audience by maybe posting a poll saying like, hey, have you tried this method of content repurposing? Or at the end, I might say, hey, was this helpful? What would you like to hear more of? So it's really making sure that your audience consumes it and they engage it. And it's a really great way to establish your authority. At the end of mini trainings, this is also a really good time to pitch and sell, because we're all selling something if we're business owners. And so right after you've really presented a certain perspective or angle and given a lot of value, this is a really great time to notate and direct their attention elsewhere where they can get more help from you, because all of us have something that we're able to offer to solve their problems. Now, side note on this, mini trainings do not always have to be 3 tips or 5 tips or something like that. You can also just pop on and kind of give a thought leadership type of training. So that means, hey, I just hopped off a call with my client and they were really struggling with XYZ mindset. So I wanted to pop on and share a couple thoughts about that. So don't be afraid to vary it up and do what your audience thinks is going to be most valuable. Tip number 3 is to make it engaging. So I kind of just mentioned this in the last one with our story, with our mini trainings, but this doesn't have to be just with mini trainings. Throughout your stories, there's honestly like so many different tools that you can use that Instagram provides, and they're always updating it with new things for you to engage your audience, because we don't just want them to like passively watch and kind of skip through. The more engaged you are, the more they're going to remember whatever it is that they're consuming and watching. And also, this is a great way to generate leads and actually start sales conversations. So you can use things like the question sticker or polls, or even just different like GIFs and sliders within your stories or music. There's so many different ways to make this a much more dynamic learning experience or dynamic just connection type of experience. Even beyond just like the GIFs and different polls that Instagram provides, another way to make it more engaging is take your audience behind the scenes. If you are selling t-shirts and you have like a product-based business, can you show them kind of packaging up different offers and show them that process? If you are a course creator and you have a new course coming out, can you kind of show some behind the scenes and tease them a little bit before they even know what the course is that's coming out? Anytime that you can like make them feel like they're a part of your world, they're going to be a lot more engaged and want to come back and check for more updates on your stories. The 4th tip is to use stories to get into your DMs. Y'all, let me tell you here, it goes down in the DMs. I am in my DMs, every single day for at least 30 minutes to an hour, having so many conversations. And this was by far one of the biggest game changers and pivoting point within my business early on, was when I started really getting into the DMs and focusing on relationships relationships equal sales. Get that into your head right here, because too many people try and go into the DMs and immediately talk about someone's dog and then transition to the sale. And that's not exactly how it works. It's really all about building and nurturing those relationships, but sales also happen, and DMs are a great place for sales to happen in your DMs. So how we utilize stories into this is, if your audience is engaging and looking at all of your content on your stories, we can use polls on there, so they can click something like, hey, are you interested in my program, 5K Accelerator or Laptop Lifestyle Bootcamp? Yes, I'm definitely in, or like, maybe I'm not sure yet, right? And so everyone that clicks that poll, I'm gonna be able to DM and send a message and just say, hey, I saw that you clicked on my stories. I'd love to answer any questions for you. Is this something you're interested in, right? You can also use it for market research. So, hey, are you guys more interested in YouTube or podcasts? Which one do you like listening to more? Then you can DM those people and even ask them further questions. This also doesn't just have to be a poll or a questionnaire. This can also just be a call to action. So a CTA, where on your stories you say, hey, if this sounds like something you're interested, I have one spot left for my one-on-one coaching. Shoot me a DM with the heart emoji and we can talk a little bit more about it. So use them as kind of like a branching off point to get into the DMs and have those more intimate sales conversations with your audience. Tip number 5 is to use testimonials on your stories. So testimonials are so important within your business, because they really highlight your client success. They are such a great way of just showcasing what you can do, and not just from your perspective, but from someone else's perspective. So we can use testimonials in the form of, if you're, messaging a client and they message you a win, or they're like, oh my gosh, your product has changed my life, or whatever it is, screenshot that and then share it to your stories. Kind of white everything out so your audience isn't like searching for what it is that you want them to see, and draw an arrow or underline what you want them to see there. You can also use more formal testimonials. So if you have written testimonials or video testimonials, as you can see here, these are some really great examples that you can incorporate into the rest of your mini trainings or just your regular content to really back up and make what you're saying even more impactful. So for example, if I were to do a mini training all about selling in your DMs, and then I had a screenshot of one of my clients who had worked with me on this saying, oh my gosh, I just landed 4 clients in my DMs, that makes what I'm saying even more impactful and create more trust for my audience, which we know trust equals sales. The 6th tip is to use your stories as an announcement board, like I said before. So what this means is sharing your in-feed posts or your reels or your IGTVs. Whenever you create those, share them to your stories, because they might not always be seen in the other locations or in the other feeds where they are. Sometimes if you don't share your IGTV to your feed, right, it's just like hiding unless someone goes to your profile. So use your stories as an announcement board and kind of tease your audience, share the reel, cover it up a little bit to get people to click through and watch the entire thing. Another great way to expand visibility here will also be to tag other people. So if you have a call with someone, or you're doing a collaboration with an IG live with someone, use your stories as, again, kind of that announcement board, tag other people, and then they'll be able to share on your stories and you'll be able to gain exposure. Tip number 7 is to use your highlights. So enough people do not fully utilize their highlights, and I like to think of your highlights as a little mini website. So your highlights are one of the places where if someone finds your profile and they're kind of digging around to find out more about you, they're probably going to first check your live stories, right? And so depending on what we have that day, that's probably going to be very varied based on what you're selling and what you're talking about in that moment. But we want to have our highlights there to be able to serve our audience and give them this full amount of information to get to know us, like us, and trust us without even having to leave the app or go to our website. So in your highlights, you should have things that are very easy to find and navigate through, such as a work with me section. But if your little work with me highlight has like 100 different, little slides and stories inside of it, that's going to be a lot for someone to dig through, especially if they have no clue who you are first and they were just kind of looking for a quick summary of information. So make sure you have some really solid highlights that are well organized and have summaries of each of your products or each of your programs and services, a very simple one of ways to work with you, maybe an about you one, maybe a client love one, but there's a lot of different ways to utilize these that are specific and best for your business. Tip number 8 is to break it up. So we're obviously talking about how to utilize Instagram stories as a business owner in order to increase sales. But we really want to make sure that we have a good mix of content between personal and business. Now, there's lots of different types of content, but I like to keep it really simple when we're thinking about Instagram stories of just personal and business. So you absolutely need to provide that educational and valuable information as the business owner. Primarily, we need to be selling on our stories, but you also want to utilize stories, again, with such a unique type of medium and way to share with your audience. You want to utilize it in a very personal way, because your stories don't have to be prim and proper and perfect. That's not at all how they are intended to be utilized. So because they're meant to be kind of raw and authentic and behind the scenes, there's the literal perfect way for you to share, like, hey, this is kind of what I'm doing today. Hey, this is my coffee that, I drink every single morning. Or even very silly things that just let people get to know who you are. Like if you are a plant lover, why not share a picture on your stories of the plant that day and just say, hey, this is my plant, Susan. I don't know, this plant is not named, but this is my plant, Susan. Do you guys have plants too, right? And you're gonna get so many responses and engagement on personal posts like that are just gonna get people involved, and they get to know you better. And again, when they know you and they like you, that's gonna lead them to watching your stuff, consuming you more, and eventually trusting you from the then business and authority sides of things, which leads to a sale. But it really needs to be a mix of this. So my golden rule for Instagram stories is to think of them like a Netflix series. The reason we think of them like a Netflix series is because ultimately you're watching a Netflix series where each individual episode kind of has its own plot line, right? So whether you think of this like every single day on your stories has its own plot line, or every kind of season of business you're in has its own plot line, but at the end of the day, people continue watching all those different episodes because they fall in love with the characters. They just want to keep following along whatever adventure the characters are on. So really think of yourself as that character and inviting people in behind the scenes, giving them that personal content so they keep following along for all the different episodes and plot lines within your business content that are keeping them on the edge of the seat and bringing them to that point of sale. And tip number 9 is to caption them. So as you can see here, I caption every single one of my stories. Is it time consuming? Yes. But is it important? Also, yes. Captioning is really, really important because 1, the majority of people actually watch stories without the sound on. 2, this makes your stories more accessible and inclusive. I've had multiple students in my programs that maybe have, a hearing impairment or something like that, and have specifically told me that one of the reasons that they joined was because all of my content was super inclusive and they were able to follow along and still get a lot of value out of it. It's also really easy for people to drone on if you don't have any captions and someone really doesn't know what to expect or when this is going to end. So even if someone does have the sound on, captions also provide a good way for skimmers who are kind of just skimming through and quickly reading faster than you can talk, for them to still be able to consume instead of swipe out. And the 10th tip for you to utilize stories in order to increase sales is to make it entertaining. So we have to remember that while we are absolutely using social media as a business and in a very, kind of casual, friendly sort of way, people are also consuming this for entertainment. It is still social media. So make sure that you're remembering that and that you are putting some effort into trying to make it entertaining. So an example of what I mean by this is, if every single day it is just you behind like your one office wall and it is just your head every single day kind of talking to your audience, that gets a little boring to watch after a while. So really try and mix it up. Mix up your scenery, mix up some angles, mix up in between your stories with, again, some personal shots of you out for a walk with your dog, or, a product shot or a testimonial, but make it interesting and make sure that you are thinking about entertaining your audience as well. All right, I hope you guys got a lot of useful tips and are super excited to dive back into stories. Like I said, honestly, stories are my favorite way to engage my audience and utilize my Instagram and really just market and connect with people in my audience. So my challenge for you, because y'all will come to know the more of my YouTube videos you watch, I love action steps. So your action step for today from this video is to utilize at least one of the 10 methods that we kind of talked about today. Use at least one of them per day for the next month. And I promise you, you will see an increase in your audience's engagement, most likely an increase in sales as well when you kind of put all these together. Challenge is to definitely use almost all of them kind of habitually all the time throughout your stories. And if you are wanting to get more leads into your Instagram to see these bomb stories that you're about to create, download my Instagram freebie, which you can find the link below, which is all about how to find 100 new ideal client followers every single week through my core engagement tactics. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys next week with another video. And while you are waiting, you can check out some of these videos up here that are more amazing information, juicy trainings and tutorials all about entrepreneurship, business, marketing, and the digital nomad lifestyle.